There is only a couple weeks left until the half anniversary finally ends, so I think it's time we can talk a little bit about the updated wishlist for NIKKE for new players who might have started playing recently and they don't know what characters to slot in, because at the moment on the wishlist you can put so many different units and there is only 5 slots that you can actually go and fill, so it's getting more complicated for new players to understand what characters are good or bad. So that said, let's talk a little bit about the updated wishlist. Hello degenerates, welcome back to Waifus. I'm Sefhi, your favorite gambling addict. Today's topic, updated wishlist for new players in NIKKE. Leave a like, subscribe, help me grow the channel, and we can jump directly into this because there is a lot of characters to jump about. So we're gonna be here for a little bit. We're gonna start with CUN. I'm gonna be dividing this into one tier list per manufacturer. And also the ratings themselves are going to be filler characters, most people don't use, niche units, most of the time a copy, but you know, some treasures might be here. Good characters, if you like them, you can go for dupes, but overall, they are not the highest priority. And the characters that I would get at least MLD, if not even multiple dupes, depending on your account and what DPSs you need, right? So, let's start with CUN, aka Missiles. Also remember, all of the over-spec characters go into their own wishlist with the Pilgrims. They are not on their original one, right? So, for example, Neon, Red Hood, Anis, Mihara Bondi Chain, they all will be here rather than on their manufacturer tier list. So, let's start with CUN, with the Missiles tier list. The filler characters, I'm not going to be talking too much about them because they are clearly just characters that are not great right now. NIKKE is on a better spot at the moment when it comes to usable characters, but we still have a huge portion of the roster that is not good. Bro goes here. Alright? Add me and say, okay, I'm gonna be 100% honest. Senti, even with her treasure, is not gonna be a good character for PvE content. Also, super important, I do not talk about PvP on this channel. I am a purely PvE enjoyer, okay? So that's why you will see characters like Senti as a filler unit, because I don't do PvP or Jackal, things like that. When it comes to Admi, it's even kind of copium calling her a niche unit. Nowadays, there is almost no reason to be running her as a B2 for the reload speed. That's the only thing she provides. Reload speed. It's copium more than niche, but we could be putting her in here, alright? When it comes to Drake and when it comes to Ain, Drake is gonna be going into almost priority, maybe good. We'll see how many characters we put up in here on Prio. Up to 5 characters only, I want here. Drake Treasure is for the shotgun teams a staple since it came out. It's the character you always run on your shotgun team as the sub DPS and buffer. A really good treasure. If you guys can work on it after the meta ones, you should. Characters like Elec are filler units nowadays. She can allow you to burst early, but there is no situation where nowadays it's useful. Back in the day, this was good for Modernia, it was good for Train to break the parts faster, but at the moment, not that great. Then you have Ain, still a fantastic DPS and one of the main DPSs you can run on your Missiles tower. Really good for electric content, really good for mirror container, even though we have now like Anis and Neon, but still a really nice character. Then you have characters like Epinel, Eder should not be here for sure. Epinel, as an SSR, never got used, sadly. There is one JP below that loves her, but that's it, there is one JP below. Flora, same situation since she came out, and believe is a true damage buffer, and is not a good one. Jackal is good for PvP, but not good for PvE. Julia is a niche character with her treasure. Laplace is gonna be oscillating between niche and good. Laplace gets more damage output than someone like Julia, for example, and she's better than something like Admi, of course. But I'm sure I would recommend for a new player to invest into Laplace. I think this is only for people who already have like a huge roster build and they want an extra iron damage dealer. Laplace can perform that. But for most people who have other alternatives to build, not the best one. Then you have someone like Glitter. You can get copies of her for free, so you don't need to put her on the wish list, but it depends how many dupes you want, right? I will say she is either good or priority, depending how many characters you want to have up here. Mana is a niche unit. I like her. She has a charge speed buff, heals 1 revive. If she uses a revive, however, she loses most of her buffs, and her numbers are not up to date with current buffers, right? So a niche character that, even though I like, is not that great. Maxwell is still a good damage dealer on her own for iron content, and also a good buffer. If you have her build, she still is used as a buffer, and for the one-shot teams nowadays. So, a nice option to be using. Naga, as much as I love her, I'm inclined to almost put her on niche nowadays. You can also get a copy for free with the recruitment bonus system, so you don't really need her, but I will say at least a copy for sure you need to be getting, right? There is not that many options for missiles and for the tower. Pepper is like an actual filler character. Trony, Juni are both filler units with the Snowcray characters that are not used at all. Then we have Toph, which is gonna be going into good. I'm gonna be putting here with Drake most likely. Now, Drake and Toph, their treasures are really good, and since you need 5 slots on top, you can put them as priority to build both of their treasures. The moment you get their treasures, you could stop getting dupes. Maybe if you want more dupes on Drake to be doing more damage, but that's up to you, right? But the moment you get their treasures, you could be switching to something else. Then you're gonna have Trina, Tia, and Quincy. Trina is a niche character. She is good for new players if you have no other B2 buffers, because even though she works mostly with assault rifles that are electric, she is a nice overall buffer. She has attack damage right here, and she also has the max HP move, even if it's without restoring. So even without the electric assault rifle, she can still use as a buffer, but it is a niche character at most. Tia, it's also a niche character. Even if we consider Naga, there is barely any situation at the moment where you bring Tia. Like at all. And then you have Quincy, which is going to be going up here into the priority because it's still a great damage dealer for water content, and overall, anytime you need a distribute damage dealer, she is up there. So these are the 5 characters I would give priority on missiles unless I'm missing someone or forgetting someone. Then I will switch to Laplace, Maxwell, and Naga, and then the rest is kind of like a pretty weak wish list for missiles. They don't have that many characters that are great or worth grabbing, so it's the simplest one, I will say. Then we can switch directly into Elysion, since it's not that big either, and we can switch this once again from niche into from one copy into niche, and we can start japping about these ones. A lot of characters here that are pretty good, honestly. You have someone like Anchor Maid, still used for a lot of content with Maid Mast. They are both really strong characters. They are both used on a lot of content. Arcana is niche as much as she is used on this raid. Unless you care about electric raids, she's a character you never see anywhere else. Okay, it's one team with one character. The other Arcana, however, is a lot better and a lot more stable for shotgun teams. So I will suggest you focus on her rather than OG Arcana. Breathe and D are both kind of useless characters, but to the standards. The Killer Wife is losing a lot of usage, sadly, as a B1 with CDR. I'm gonna put her initially here on good, and we'll see if we move her up or down, because there is a couple CDRs you can use for Elysion. Delta, Ninja Thief, is a niche character. I use her on my raid teams, but I like her for comfy runs. Diesel, I'm gonna put her on filler, even with the treasure, I just don't like it. Same for EH, okay, we can cope a little bit and say, she's gonna be used for weak raids. But let's go, okay? Base Emma is useless, while the new Emma and the new Enwa are both niche characters. I am inclined to put them in good, because for new players it's really comfortable to have safe teams, right? But if we're talking about the actual usage and how good they are in the current meta, they are more of a niche rather than good characters. OG Enwa, OG Guillotine, they are both useless characters. Helm can go into the priority up here. It's still one of the strongest treasures we have in the game, and a really good option to be building for any team composition. So not only for, water weak content, for any team composition. And the same thing applies for Privacy, okay? Privacy goes into the priority tier list. Both of them, you need to be getting at least LB2 for the treasures, but I would recommend you go grab an extra couple dupes. But they are incredible characters, so both priority. Okay, we'll be going with EH right here, both into the Cope Sefhi tier. Okay, this is me coping that they will be good. Lavelle is decent for iron weak content, but no CDR as a B1. Maiden is useless. Miss Marcy, I love Miss Marcy, but let's be honest, zero usage at the moment. You can grab a copy of Miss Marcy, because it's a nice healer B2. But even her storage is not as good as Anchor. So I love Marcy, but it's not there. Okay, she has no real usage right now. So I'm gonna put her on filler. Then you have OG Mass, which is useless, and then you have the new Mass, which I'm gonna be putting on priority for now. The new Mask is one of the strongest, if not the strongest attack buffer, and she can be used on any team composition as your second B2, but you have to manually play her. Then we have Miranda, good treasure, used on almost every single raid for the one-shot teams. Pretty nice, pretty good character. Phantom can be going into the same category as EH and K, okay? It's me copying, these three are good. But they're fillers, guys. Like, we can actually move it down here, right? All three of them are actually cope more than anything. Oli goes down here. Made privacy. Okay, same thing as the other girls. K, EH, like all of these units are cope rather than actually usable characters. And again, I do like them. I like EH, I like K, I like Phantom, and I like Made Privacy. But there is just not enough reasons to be using them right now. So these four, you could grab a copy to use for general content if you lack units, if you don't have the whole roster, obviously. But they are not that great. They are not great characters. Query goes down here. Signal has gotten no usage since day one. Same thing for Solin. Same thing for Sora. Same thing for the old bestie. And then we go into Sui, which her treasure is decent. We go into bestie and we go into the new Solin. Now, Sui, her treasure has a little bit less priority than Miranda. So I will say you can build it, you can go for copies, but I would put more priority into getting bestie dupes, even you can put her on priority, rather than Sui. And I like Solin as a CDR more than I like the Killer Wife, even though the Killer Wife is providing more buffs, because she's providing actually decent buffs, plus the CDR, she is hot, right? The thing is that Solin provides the same cooldown reduction without having to worry about 8 shots on full charge, right? And it's also at way less level, providing the 7.49. So it's a little bit higher on the cooldown reduction, and it's automatic, you don't have to worry about shots. So that's my only reason as to why I prefer Solin over the Killer Wife, but obviously the Killer Wife is hotter. So these are the 5 characters I will say people can focus on at the moment. The next 5 characters that people can be grabbing a few copies if they like them for raids and to be working on the treasure for Miranda. Then the niche units here, and then, you know, we could be putting Phantom, K, EH, Privacy, maybe on niche, but it's more copium than anything. So that is for Elysion Manufacturer and what I would recommend you guys put on the wish list. So that's for Elysion, also done. We can also jump directly into Tetra, and then we'll go into the best list, obviously, which is going to be Pilgrim. Now, Tetra, a lot of characters, and a lot of them are useless. We can start talking about some of the really good ones in here. Okay, that's gonna be Bunny 8, one of the best B2s in the game, even outside of Pierce teams, because she focuses on Pierce buffs, but she has a nice 55% attack damage and also a nice 13% of caster's attack right here when she has full stacks, which is pretty nice, right? Also, she is one of the best assets in the game in terms of fan service as well. So no reasons to not be grabbing Bunny 8. However, when it comes to normal 8, it's trash. Okay, normal 8 is absolutely useless. Nobody ever used 8. Leona, I'm gonna cope a lot right here and put her on niche, but she is a filler unit, okay? We haven't used Leona on a long time, Then we have 3 pretty nice characters. Breedy, we can put her on niche, Alice on good, and Blank on good. Now, Alice, she's a priority character because she's one of the best DPSs for Tetra, but you can get her for free. You can get a lot of Alice copies with the bonus recruit system on a standard banner. That's why I'm not putting her on priority, because I think you can use those extra wishlist slots for someone else instead. Alright? That's why she goes here with Blank. And Blank goes here only if you are building her with Rogue. Only with Rogue, not with Nord. Nord at the moment is not a good character, sadly. So those go there. And Breedy is good for distribute damage, nice water DPS. She has to be paired with Grast, however, in order to be a good DPS. Then we go into both treasures that are niche, but still can be used on Iron Weak and Electric Weak Exian Frima, only if you build their treasures. If it's base copies, they go down. Alright? Good. Then you have Dola, Ludmilla, Mary, Ludmilla, Cocoa, Clay, Biscuit, Aria, Milk, Bay, all of them are useless in PvE content, okay? Zero usage in PvE. Dola, okay, so Dola, it's a niche character, but almost a useless one, because her numbers are just not up there. It's a character that, sadly, when it comes to what she provides, the numbers are not there. Her CDR is also not that good. It's like the little one where you need to rotate 3 times. She can still be used, and for a new player, it could be a nice B2 early on. But when it comes to actual competitive content, it's hard to see her. But still, can be seen. Then we go into Milk Bunny, a pretty good character, solid DPS, only if you are willing to manual her. If you don't want to manual her, she's useless, okay? She will lose a bunch of her damage. Where is my priorities? So if you're willing to manual her, really good DPS, really nice looking bunny girl. I like my combos, what can I say? So Mill goes there. Bunny Alice, it's like Leona. It's more cope than anything. I think I'm gonna put both Leona and Bunny Alice in here. They are just not great characters. At least by today's standards, they are not great characters. Bunny Alice can re-enter V1, has some decent heals for a new player that they can take advantage of, and for water content, she can increase the stacks of other water allies. So you could use her. It's not a useless character. You know, like it's not like a Ludmilla or like a Bale. It's not fully useless. But by today's standards, there's not that many reasons to be running Alice or Leona. I would rather recommend people get crashed for the attack damage on her burst as a buffer, or Dola for the CDR, than Alice. And they are both also characters not that popular, right? Now we go into Moron. Moron will obviously go directly into the priority. Is the second / third, depends on who you ask, best V1 in the game. It's the new Annie's, it's the Little Mermaid and Moran. Those 3 are, you know, competing right there. Moran Treasure is fantastic. It's really, really, really good and will allow you to push content under bigger combat power. Deficits because the damage taken reduce. And also, pretty nice buff. Old One, Nero, both go into the filler category. And as much as it pains me, Nor is almost a filler character too, bro. Nor is not the same situation as Dola, where, yeah, you can still use her. If you don't have Rogue and you want to use Blanc, you can use Nor. But by today's standards, her numbers are just not there. Even if we consider like level 10 skills, it's just not there. She doesn't provide enough, sadly. So I wouldn't really recommend getting her unless you already have all of the good characters up there. Noise, no situation where she's useful. Novel, it's kind of a cope character. One of the strongest damage taken debuffs in the game on her burst, but it's only 5 seconds and you only need to be fully stacked on Cornucopia. So, a lot of cope. I hope she gets a treasure because I am an actual Novel fan. I like Novel quite a bit. Nice waifu material, but not there. Ray is useless. Oh, actually, Ray not even here because she's a free character. You cannot put her on the wishlist. Rosanna is useless. Rumani is useless. OG Rupi, even though she has a nice attack buff, is useless. Sakura, even with the cooldown reduction, is useless. OG Soda is not a good character. Anyone else in here would be Jan and would be Julha. Now, Julha, some people might argue she could be a niche character for the one-shot teams. I can see it, but with so many good options for buffers today, I wouldn't put Julha as a priority. I wouldn't even almost put like half the characters here pretty honestly. Then we have Volume. It is a niche character. Almost you can put her on good because of the cooldown reduction. But with more and more options on cooldown reduction, she is one of those characters that is getting pushed down on the priority. Then you have Viper. If you're building her treasure, it's a good treasure. Only for water content. So she goes with Freema and Exia on the same category. Velvet is a good buffer, but it's kind of hard putting her at the same level as Alice. Like, I'm gonna put Alice on top as much as I'm right now cringing putting her so high, but because Velvet is not as good, right? And even Milk Bunny could be almost put here because we need 5 slots for priority, so it depends what you are putting in here. So Velvet does have great buffs and she has fantastic synergy on the Wind team, but outside the Wind team, she doesn't get that much usage. Sugar, I love her, but it's a useless character. Bunny, Soda. My thing with Soda is that even though I'm not a huge fan, she still does get used for raids, so it is a useful character. It's not a unit that you just do not see at all. She can still be seen on raids. So I can see the argument for putting her on the good category instead, right? And then you have Rogue. which is directly gonna be going into the priority list with the other girls right here. I think these 5 can be your priority. Then you have Blanc, Velvet, Soda, depending on what you're doing, or if you want to be going for bunnies instead, you could be doing something like this, right? Or removing Alice because you got her for free and put bunny milk instead. It depends on what you're doing, but that's the priority, the good characters, and the niche ones that it's almost fillers, and then the rest of the Tetra characters that sadly are no good, no bueno. And then lastly, over spec wishlist. A lot of good units here. There is not that many fillers. You have Rapunzel as a filler, you have Noah as a filler, you have Harran, and you have Doro. As much as I like my Doro, and she is still invested in my account, she is a cope character. Okay? There is no reason to use her. But outside of me coping for her, a lot of good characters here. It's even hard to say some of them are niche. If you want to put characters in niche here, it would have to be the ones we use on the specific rates only. Scarlet, Isabel, it would be probably the OG Snow White, it would be still Babu, and I think those are the only ones that I can consider niche. They are used on specific elements and specific rates, and it's not even by everyone. Most people who don't have Arcana are not using Isabel. If you don't have Trina, you don't use Scarlet. If you don't have a one-shot team or a Miranda Treasure, you do not use Snow White. And Babu, is Babu even used on fire content nowadays when it comes to the actual rates? Or is she not being used anymore? I don't know. No, she's still used, okay. Still a nice character for those rates. Okay, then we go into the good units and the priority. The sad thing is that every character here can be called priority. Okay, like literally every single of these units could be going into priority and you would still be good and you would still be completely fine. Obviously, there is a few we're gonna be moving down and we'll talk about which ones I would give priority because you can only put 5 characters in here. So if you can only put 5 characters in here, Sefhi, which ones would it be? I would be starting by moving down Mihara because she's good on bossing but not as good on AoE or, you know, overall pushing normal content. I would also only pick one of the electric waifus here. You either put Neon or you put Cinderella. Whatever you prefer, whatever you like the most, put that. I like Neon more, so I keep Neon. There is no situation where I will say Annie's is better, or sorry, Little Mermaid is better than Annie's, but you need both. That's why she goes into good instead of, you know, niche. You still need to grab Little Mermaid for raids, obviously, but Annie's takes a higher priority here. Then we have Grave, which as good as a B2 she is, cannot compete with Nayuta, cannot compete with Crown. It's still a lot of character, however, because this is only 5 spots, like I said earlier. They are not bad characters, but you can only pick 5 of them. Red Hood has to go down, okay? I love Red Hood, but I know it's a meme. She's on the T2 tier list. I know. She's still fantastic. She's a good unit. One of the best skins in the game, by far, by the way. By far. But not as high priority as some of the other DPS girls. Then we go into the rest of the units here. It's really hard to just say 5 characters here. If I have to recommend something here, I would probably move down Scarlet. I would probably move down Nayuta. And I would probably still move down Liberalia. Again, they are all really good units, but if I can only put 5 characters as priority on my over spec, it would be these characters. In fact, you could argue, and some people might say, that Neon goes down, and it's these 4 plus whatever DPS you like for specific elements, right? To me, I like Neon, so I'll probably try to go to MLB at least on the wishlist when she is added. Remember that both Neon and Annie's will be added after the event ends. So to me, it will be something like this. But for a lot of people, Neon will be going down, and it's going to be depending on what element you like the most, right? I could also be going for a few more Nayuta dupes, because I think Nayuta is... No, but Nayuta is MLB. So yes, I will probably try to get Neon MLB on my wishlist. So to me, that's the one I will get for. But that's basically everything when it comes to current wishlist for NIKKE. Probably a longer-ish video, because there is a lot of characters to yap about. And we could be going like actually make a 50-minute video into each character, talking a little bit more as to why they're good or bad or why they have those ratings. Maybe we can do that on a stream one day, like an in-depth video as to why the characters are on that position on the tier list or wish list, to let me know if that's something you guys are interested in. That's it. Enough japping, enough ranting. As usual, remember, we are live every single day. You guys have the links in the description down below. If I miss a character, let me know and I'll tell you. But I will put them right now on the wish list. And good luck with your pool data rates, and I'll see you on the next one.